It's time for the Epic Engagement Adventure. Oh, hello, everybody. You know what time it is. It is the time in which we pick a member of our beautiful community and we highlight them to the world because of the amazing things that they do. Today, it's all about the magic of retreats, putting on events, doing them, planning them, everything. I've found a genius in this realm. Her name is Leni Cavazos. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Good. Good. And yeah, I met Lainey some time ago on some networking thing, and it was just like I need to have this person around me because the magic of taking a rest and focusing your energy in the proper places, this is something that we all need to be doing. So I'm so excited. Lainey, tell us everything. Tell us about yourself.
Perfect. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to be sharing. And I think we'll talk a little bit more about this, but I love sharing and sharing education and my experiences and where I've been and how did I get here, right? So it's absolutely an honor for me to be able to share my story with all of you, right? It's not only about me and what happened, but it's all about how we can relate with what has happened to each one another and then how we can grow from that, right? And I think, as you were saying, the part of retreats, this is one of the most important parts, is that we retreat, but we retreat as a community. We gather together. So we're sharing energy, we're sharing our experiences, we're sharing vulnerability, we're sharing love, anything you can imagine, but it's all about sharing in a space where we retreat and we take time for ourselves, but we are growing as a community. So this is so important, and this is something that we really need to take into consideration, right? For me, something that is super important is to always realize that if you're the retreat host, and I'm going already into the educational piece, and like, I'm sorry, but I am kind of this kind of person, right? I'm like, I follow the energy of where, like, it's guiding me and taking me, and not every time it has to be like, oh, I've done all these things, and then that's why I'm supposed to be telling you about this. But it's more about actually how we need to consider that when we're hosting a retreat, it's not only our energy that is coming into play, it's every single person that is there, right? It makes such a difference when we consider all of us as a part of a community, a circle that is really creating this energetic vortex for us to transform and to change and to connect and to create beautiful, beautiful transformational experiences, right? So it's so important to really consider that it's not just us going and teaching in a retreat, a conference, a workshop, an online course. It doesn't really matter the format. It's the same thing. It's a container, right, of more people, more than just you. How these everyone in this group is affecting how things are happening, or maybe not even affecting, but changing, modifying, transforming. So super incredible opportunity for everyone who's running online programs, coaching workshops, day camps, like one-on-one coaching, to really start understanding how the energy of everyone who's there will shift the thing. So nothing, it's like the universe, right? And I can see your background screen with the universe. I'm like so inspired by it. I'm like, I'm going with this analogy. So it's like the universe. It's never the same, Stars are expanding each single day. Stars are dying. New stars are being born. There's never one single time where the universe is exactly the same. This happens exactly every single time. And I'm sure you won't let me lie to this. I'm sure when you're running your programs, even if you're teaching exactly the same things, it goes in a completely different direction,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, why does the world need so many math teachers? Because, I mean, it's the same stuff they're all teaching, right? Every single one teaches differently. They reach different people in different ways. It's not about information, my friends, it is about delivery. So, yeah, I just wanted to break in and say that. What made you want to do retreats?
Well, this is a story that it basically starts with the word, like the phrase, I decided to trust. I just didn't know what I was gonna do. I just quit my corporate job. I was working for Marriott in Dubai 7 years, beautiful life, like skyscraper apartment, amazing, going into the desert, brunch every weekend, you name it. But I was just like, okay, this is not enough. Then the pandemic happened, and I was like, okay, I'm over Dubai. Like, I'm here, I'm trapped. My family is not here. So I was like, I'm gonna quit. I made a decision super quick. It was an easy one. I really didn't have to overthink it. But then I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was like, well, I'll take 6 months off. But I'm a little bit of a workaholic, so I came back to my hometown in Mexico, and I was like, well, we'll see what comes out of it. I can do some consulting on my marketing experience and event planning and everything. And I was just like, okay, it just should be within the spiritual world or someone who wants to create transformation. Because I don't want to be selling alcohol anymore. I don't want to be promoting restaurants because I used to do food and beverage marketing. I
Yeah.
gained a lot of weight. It's not good for me. Forget about the rest of the people. It's not good for me. I do a lot of market research. So you can imagine it was not a great fit for me. So I was like, okay, I need to do something that's also connected to my spiritual life. But I really didn't know how it was going to look like. And I just went into the path of trusting and understanding that whatever would come, it was exactly what it was supposed to be at right that time and moment. But things were started just evolving in a beautiful way. Like someone from a retreat center, they asked me, hey, can you do an audit of our retreat center and see what's happening? And I was like, okay. Well, I came, I did some implementations, and they were like, hey, can you do some more consulting and really create the framework for us to sell the retreats to the retreat leaders to see what we need to do. I also started going to a lot of retreats myself. I spent like 6 months really like working on myself, making sure that when I was going into my next step, I was going with all the tools that I needed to really succeed. And it just started happening. It was just like magic, like I just went through this process where like people started coming to me and being, hey, would you plan a retreat for me? And I've been planning events for 18 years now. Like I started when I was 15 years old. So I really like for me to create a concept for a retreat. I close my eyes and I know exactly how it's supposed to look like, how is it going to happen, like, and I basically kind of even see a checklist of like my time, like my critical path on how I'm supposed to do one thing and the next, right? So it's absolutely amazing. I love it. And like for me, that's like my universe, the stars lighting up and kind of like it's a little bit magical. So for me, it was super simple. So when people started saying, hey, would you plan a retreat for me? I'm like, okay, I've been to a few. I know like what people are looking for. I know what I would be looking for. I've seen what the transformation experience that needs to happen. And I want to do things in the spiritual world. And I just said yes. And I started saying yes. And like just from saying yes, more opportunities came, and I started helping people throughout their own retreats on how they can do them better. Like really coming from a marketing perspective, the event planning perspective, but also the mindset, right? So I have been studying NLP for quite a while. I studied marketing, energetic marketing, like a bunch of stuff that it's all about at the end of the day, fulfilling your purpose, having an intention, putting your focus on it, and taking some action, right? Very, very simple three-step process that everyone teaches you in a different way because everyone learns in a different way. And that's perfectly fine. That's amazing, right? Um, so I started like coaching people, right? Like consulting, coaching people when they were doing the retreats on how they can do them better.
Yeah.
And I realized at that point I was planning a bunch of retreats and it was fun, but it was also like the impact was limited, right? I knew the impact that I was creating for people was limited to the two hands that I had and the 52 weekends on the year. That I definitely did not want to spend 52 years planning retreats for other people or for myself because it takes a lot of energy. And when I do something, I really bring my whole passion, my whole self into it, right? So
Yeah.
when I retreat, it's like a 3 month, really like deep commitment. And I make sure that everything is so intentional that magic happens, right? So I'm like, okay, how do I transform this that I'm doing that I love, but it's not going to serve me in the long term, right? So since I started like guiding people through the process on how to do that from themselves, I was like, well, maybe this is something I need to like bring a little bit more energy into, right? Not like I'm never gonna plan another retreat, but now I plan bigger retreats, right? I plan conferences for like 100 people. Like larger things are all into the spiritual world, but like I know I can dedicate 6 months into this project and the impact is gonna be larger, right? So it's all about the question on impact for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how actually the retreat planner kind of started as an agency in the sense of like I still plan events, but it's also about how I teach other people to do it for themselves. So they don't have to hire me or someone else at the beginning of this, like the beginning of the retreat planning career, and they're not diluting their profit, and they learn how to do it very easy, very simple, without spending so many crazy hours because you have the guidance of someone who has done over 80 retreats, right? So it's for me it was like this is something I can do very very well, and it
Yeah.
has worked amazing because all my clients they always come and they're like, I'm your fan, this is great. I have clients who are not even planning retreats and they just want me to teach them how to do this, and they translate it into their coaching programs, into their workshops, into anything, because they're like, what you teach is not just about retreats, it's about
Mhm.
mindset and a lifestyle and how you create a framework that fits who you are. You know, I don't have, everyone says like, oh, I have a framework, I have a system. And true, there is, for me, there is a skeleton, but the framework you have to create your own because only that one is going to work for you. There's no cookie cutter answer when it comes to these kind of things because it needs to be something that works for you and that you feel comfortable, but also you can push yourself a little bit. It has to have this blend.
Well, and I think, I mean, just I've been exposed to a lot of people in my career. If you ever approach somebody and they're telling you that it's everything's going to be super easy, please just pay this really ridiculous bill. Anybody that tells you that it, it doesn't take hard work and that it doesn't take consistency, walk away from that person. It's okay. Walk away. I mean, I love that you teach more than just about the retreat, because there are times that we can go away to a hotel for 2 or 3 days, hang with our friends, do some stuff. Um, but how do you find a space within yourself to retreat if you're sitting in your office chair? You
Yeah.
know, because we all need to find that balance, not just once a year on a weekend. So I'm so glad that you that it's more of a holistic view of it. It sounds like.
Yes, actually, it's amazing that you touch this topic because I think it's something super important, and it's something that it's one of my like biggest, let's say, it secrets for my like on how I plan things. Like my specialty is loyalty marketing, so it's how people come back and how you keep them coming and how you create connections and you create relationships, and there you get messages and like when is your next thing, like I want to know. It's not about just like once off, I see you once a year for a retreat and then that's it, right? So this is exactly how I teach things in the way I'm like, how do you create something that is sustainable for your brand? How
Yeah.
do you create something that you can replicate in the future and you don't have to work as much as you did the first time? I'm not saying there's no work, but because you're creating your own system that works and you test it and then you change it and then you fix it until you find the one that really really works for you. How do you make sure that this has continuity? How do you continue the experience after a retreat? How do you incorporate that into a coaching program? What about if you started your coaching program with a retreat so everyone gets to know themselves, each other, and then they know who they're working with? They create these personal connections. So once they're into this program, they are deep in, right? Their transformation is going to be so much higher because they already connected with the people they're going to be spending time with, rather than spending a couple of weeks figuring out when is the right time to actually be vulnerable and say, hey, I don't understand, can you say it again,
Yeah.
can you explain it all over again? You know what I mean? Like this kind of sense of safety that we don't have so many times when you're on an online space. So how about starting your programs with actually a meetup in person? It can be in a coffee shop. You know, it doesn't have to be a fancy retreat, 3 day escapade with horseback riding activities. And no, it can be for sure, but it doesn't have to be, right? It can be something as simple as that. And then having this space for people to connect and to meet up, even maybe if it's, you know, cannot do it in person, but online, just an like very like free session where people come, they introduce themselves, they share a little bit, and then they're like, okay, this is what it is. You know, I know you a little bit more. And when you come into the sessions there, you're a little bit more warmed up. And I can tell you from personal experience, the last time I ran my program, Mastering the Art of Retreat Planning, that it was, I did an intensive session. It was like a 3 day kind of deep dive into mastering the art of retreat planning. And it's awesome content, but of course, in 3 days is like packed, you know, you're like topic after topic after topic. And this is for the people who really want to go into it faster, and they already know what they want, and they're like, okay, I just need to get all the knowledge, and then I can come back to it when I have to, but I don't have to wait for like 10 weeks to feel that I am ready to do something, right? So
Right.
it was amazing, but I love engagement, but I found that at the beginning people were not really open to share, right? So I was like, okay, if anyone wants to open up the mic and share with me, and they were like, you know, silence, there's nothing happening here. Then I was like, okay, so let's take it back a notch and let's go into the chat. So let's see who says something on the chat, right? And how do we do this, right? So, okay, so hey, who has felt this? You know, things are easy, like easier approaches, things that won't make you feel so ashamed. You know, at the end of the course, I had people saying, oh my gosh, I've been doing everything wrong. You know, this is the vulnerability space into you where you can get to once you're listening to your audience and seeing how they can relate. But I know if I was running this course in person, everyone who would have been sharing. And if maybe I organized a coffee meetup beforehand, like just a casual conversation for people to introduce each other, they would have been more warmed up before we just went in and
Oh, totally.
dove dip, right? So it's all about thinking, how can you create this experience and this connection so people keep talking to each other after the course it has finished. I talk to most of my students from my previous courses. They always send me messages like, hey, I'm launching this. What do you think? And I'm like, hey, book a call. Let's have a chat, you know, like half an hour. I give you half an hour. Like, let's get there because I want them to succeed.
Yeah.
It's not about me, oh, you can book another call and then you have to pay $300 for my consultation. It's more about like, hey, I want you to succeed because you are my presentation card. You are the person who's going to be telling others, hey, I worked with Leni and this was the best experience ever.
Yes.
I cannot recommend her enough. If you're planning a retreat, you have to hire her.
Yeah.
And this is what my clients say about me.
Oh, of course they do.
Like,
I'm
because I give myself to them, basically, right?
Well, and that's it's so key. First of all, you're an entrepreneur that I love to talk to, which is the kind that learns from experience, is vulnerable enough to go, you know what, I could probably have done that better next time. You know, because you've got the formula spouters, I'll call them. You've got the, well, you know, you didn't do this step, and you didn't try hard enough, and that's why you felt, no, no, you know, my success depends on yours. This is not, there's a lot of stuff in our industry going around, and I've been dropping some videos in the group lately about some of it, and some of it's pretty funny, but there's a serious side to it, and that is that a lot of people they just want to get you in the door. You're talking about, this is a relationship.
Yeah.
We're starting a relationship here. This is a give and take. This is yeah, I want to know, it's been a couple years, I want to know what you're doing. How can I help? How can I help? Which is amazing. And then, of course, we have that question that I ask everybody, and that just, it dovetails right in. What do you do to engage your audience?
So it's great that you're asking this. And I've been thinking about it because I know we spoke about it a little bit before. And I was just like, okay, so yes. So I have my answer that's a normal one, but I think there's something else that I want to add before we go there. So I have to be super honest. I am a person that I have created my funnels. It's not that I don't have funnels. I'm not gonna tell you I don't have a email sequence that goes into your email that tells you all the amazing stuff, right? That I can offer. But my funnels are very educational. Like honestly, for you to find my offer, you have to go to the bottom of the email and be like, maybe I want to do this. Maybe it's not the best like sales strategy in the sense like everyone else is doing, but this is what I feel comfortable with because I like to share knowledge, right? And this is all about like share over. I am a over giver basically, right? And I want people to get educated because my purpose, yes, of course, I want to have you as my client because I know what I can do for you, right? Like you might not know it, but I know. So
Yeah.
I want to have you by the door. But if you're not, and the thing I can do is just change a little bit the way you do things, I'm set. I'm happy because you are making the world a better place.
Yeah.
And that's and the abundance and the money and the clients, they come on the side. They just become the aftermath, right?
Yeah.
So for me, it's so important to really consider that yes, I have emails, I have landing pages, I have a bunch of freebies because I share a lot and so, I get bored. Like I was telling you today, I launched a new freebie. I was like, this is it. I was like, oh, I have this. I might as well just share it with other people. And yes, does this mean there is a page afterwards that says that I have an upcoming program if you're interested? Yes, it does. Because if I don't tell you, who will, right? It's all about
Yeah.
communicating, right? But before that, you already got so much from me. And then I know I'm building trust because I'm sharing educational pieces. You're learning something from me every single time I send an email. It has maybe a video recording on how to choose if you have a co host, a facilitator, or you hire just an admin to come help you run your retreat. What does that entail in cost wise? This is one of the biggest learnings that people have at the beginning of the retreat planning journey, and no one is telling them what to do because there is other people teaching how to plan retreats. Huh? I'm not the only one. I'm not gonna say I'm the only one, but I do have to say I want to do things differently, and I try. I haven't found anyone who does it the same way I do because I have made an effort to make it different, right? And to do
Sure.
my proper market research as a good marketeer that I am, right? I ran my research, I took my courses. I was like, okay, let me see what's happening. What's the difference? But for me, the most important part is that I have this big educational piece, but it's not only focused on tools and techniques, it's also focused on mindset,
Yes.
right? Because if you don't have the right mindset, you can have the perfect pricing, you can have the perfect marketing strategy, you can have an amazing agency. It's not going to sell. That's it.
It's you're scattering seeds on a parking lot.
Yeah.
I mean, you can scatter those seeds all day if you want, but none's going to grow. And I mean, I feel like mindset has sort of become for me, it's about context. It's about the context. It's about the environment in which that plant grows. And if you don't have the right environment, you're going to have problems. Uh, uh, do you find that? Oh, I wanted to ask you this earlier, but I also want to. I will also want you to talk about your freebie a little bit more. I'm going to throw the link in the chat, um, and then I'm going to put it up on screen here. Could you talk about this a little bit more? I need the other one. I think this is free Facebook group list 70 groups to sell your retreat. This is fascinating. What made you come up with this?
So I'm actually hosting my next program. It's called How to Price and Sell Your Retreat, right? And
Yeah,
this is a program that I run usually only on private sessions. So I just offer it for my private coaching. And now I was just like, okay, I think that I need to make this on a group container, but it has to be different. It cannot be exactly the same as I do in my private coaching that honestly people get amazing results, right? They're making 30K profit on the retreats, 8K for like small groups retreats. You can make up to 100K if you want on revenue, right? Like it's endless possibilities, and my clients are excited, they love it, they come back to me all the time. Every time they have a retreat, they're like, "Can we just review what I'm doing and make sure it's it's working out and whatnot?" So I was like, okay, I want to do this in a group container because the energy of the group is so different, and I feel there's going to be so much growth, right? And because I was doing that, I started creating some additional video content because I wanted to make sure that we had enough time and everything. And then I was just like, I had one of my private clients. She had a consultation with me for her retreat that she's having, and we were talking about different ways to promote her retreat. And I was like, "Well, I have this Facebook group list that my assistant did a while ago because I asked her to do it for me. Do you want it?" And then she was like, "Okay." And I'm like, oh, and I went into it, and I was like, let me review if I had like 20 groups, right? And I was like, let me review if this is still current with Facebook and whatnot.
Right, right.
And I was like doing my work, and then suddenly I have over 70 groups with different amount of number members. The list has how many members there is on each group. The majority of them are public. I added a description on what what it is all about. There are some that are specific for locations like retreats in Scotland and all these kind of things. But if you're running a retreat in Scotland, it's awesome, right? So I was just like, okay. So I gave this to my client. I went it back and I reviewed it, and then I sent her the updated one. I'm like, hey, here's the updated one. Like, forget about the other one, right? Like, go for this one. And I was like, okay, I have to share this with more people. Like, why do I do all the work to just keep it for myself?
Yeah.
So I was so excited to really release this. And I was so excited. I put this page together in like half an hour, posted it on a couple of Facebook groups, really went on. I was just like, well, this is it. Like, right? I was like, if this is what people need, I'm going to give it to them. Right. So I was like, we were supposed to have another freebie today in this call. And I was just like, let's do this one because I feel there's so much value on it, right? You need to find where your audience is spending their time. So if your audience is spending time on Facebook, this list is awesome. And if they're not, go ahead and try it because it's specific groups for people looking for retreats. You cannot find this on Instagram. Like there's no way you can find someone who's looking for a retreat on Instagram or
Right.
TikTok or YouTube. There's no place where people announce, "Hey, I'm looking for a retreat," but Facebook.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's delivering quality, delivering value. I'm so glad to hear that it's much more than just a list of links. You went through and made sure that it would be easy for people to get value from. A lot of times, a lot of freebies people give are like, oh, this ain't, this is not worth my time to read it, but giving quality and giving a good experience to people is absolutely what you do.
Yeah.
Um,
And I'm a market researcher. Like I love market research. So before I put on my freebie, and I have I have like right now live like three different freebies. But before I put together my freebies, I went on a bench expedition of like looking for freebies and see which ones work and not. And honestly, I do have to say there's so many that are quite useless. Like it could be a three sentence and I would get the message, right? There is a lot of blah 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 here and there. For me, I like things that have value. They're actionable. Like my other freebie one is like a practice on how to see how you feel about money, and you take actually a dollar bill, and it just takes you through the process on how you can try this and see if it works for you, right? And the other one has three different things that you really need to consider when you're planning a retreat, so you make sure that you're profitable, and it has like a technique on muscle testing, and it tells you how to do muscle testing. Like I really try to do things from a perspective, if I receive this, would I find value in it? Would I actually learn something from this
yeah.
if I was getting this, right? And I tested before I put it out there. I tested with other people. I share it with them. I'm like, hey, would you download this? Or actually, would you even pay for this?
Right.
Because I am giving it for free, but it's supposed to have a value, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And to me, that kind of consideration, that kind of walking through something, standing in your potential client's shoes, that's what makes you awesome. That's what makes you awesome. So many people crank out so much stuff because some big name is doing it, and now, okay, well, I'm going to do it too, and it worked for them, it'll work for me. Nope, nope. The world has changed, and the pendulum is going toward individualization, personalization, customization, and choice. That's what it's going. It's going from this industrial way of shouting things out and trying, desperately trying to get people to hear you, and it's going more toward giving people a great experience. I am so glad you came on today, Leni.
I actually have something to share about what you were saying, right? So when I was in my corporate days, right, I used to work with a lot of like influencer campaigns and just like really thinking about like social media strategies and bringing influencers to the hotels to like a bunch of stuff, right? And in many, many different dimensions, paid, unpaid, like whatever you can imagine. But actually, we did usually run a lot of research when it came to influencers, and the reality is that all the major influencers, they have a big following. Yes, it's true. You will get a lot of maybe brand awareness, but actually the conversion comes higher from micro influencers. The mom that has 500 friends that they all like what you're doing, that they would all like to learn about how you can have more free time as a mom. This micro influencer might be a better person to actually create a collaboration with and be like, hey, would you share this with your group of moms? Because
Yeah.
I know it's amazing. It changed my life and I wanted to change the lives of other people. I know you're a mom. I know you're probably in the PTA meeting. You go to this school, can you please give me an introduction maybe to the director of the school and be like the principal, right? And be like, hey, so I have this program for moms, can we send an email and tell them, hey, come for a free session and try it out, and then see if
Exactly.
it's something that works for you, and then you can hire me, like what about the school hiring you and actually offering it as an add-on for their services for parents.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much value out there that can be discovered. And it really does take having a bit of a creativity around it sometimes, which you have an abundance charm as well, my friend. I have loved hanging out with you. Any last thoughts for the audience before we roll here?
Yeah, well, I have to say that yes, if you're hiring a coach, and I know you are one like those, right? But if you're hiring someone specific for a certain thing, make sure that they will be able to provide something that is personalized for your needs.
Yes.
And then, not that they will just provide it, that they will show you how to do it for yourself. This is something that I tell my clients all the time. I'm like, I'm here. My business as that is that you don't have to take this course again. You take it once, you're graduated, and that's it. You don't want to. I don't want you to come back for this. If you come for an upgrade and for more things and other teachings, yes, perfect. I don't want you to be like, I need to retake this course because this means I am not doing my job properly. I want you to create a system, and I'm going to help you through it that will work for you and that will help you, but that you will know how to recreate in different ways, right? So the idea, for example, for me is I teach them how to price and sell a retreat, right? So this is a very specific course, very like focus oriented on pricing and selling. It does have the part of mindset and technical skills, right? It's not just technical skills or like sell. So it is a beautiful blend. But I teach them on between 22 different ways that I have for selling retreats to find which one works for them, and how that everything that we learn there they can recreate, so that when they do their second retreat or their third retreat or their fourth or the 20th, they can still use the same tools. And
Yeah.
they don't have to come back and be like, how was I supposed to calculate the pricing? What was I supposed to include this or not? I want them to think for themselves, how do I do this for me? But now they have the tools to do it because I provided the tools, right? And the teachings. But if you are hiring someone, make sure that they teach you how to do it for yourself, because you don't want to be the slave of someone else, because if you leave them, then you're lost. I think that's my last advice.
I love it. And I mean, it's just been, I want to thank you for joining me today. I think that I learned a lot. I think that my audience is going to just find this valuable. And thanks for inviting your people as well. You're so kind. And let me just say that this is just uh, another road sign that says, you know what? Nice people are winners too. People who give are also winners. It doesn't have to be all of the, all the people shouting from stages that you need to buy, and, all of that. There, cover yourself in millions if you need to. But for me, it's the people who are doing it, getting good, getting paid well, but doing it. Made a major motivation is just to have an impact on the world. And so I'm thank you again for coming. And very good. Um, well, everybody out there in internet land, Epic Engagement Adventure, we're going to be back next week. Same bot time, same bot channel. We're going to be talking to another amazing guest, whom I met at probably some networking event or other that just lights up my world. So do please join us. We would love to have you. And that's about it for us today. Let's wave bye bye to the people, Leni.